Hey friends, it's Dimitri with Nebraska Streetwear. Today I want to show you how I ship mugs. Now this is not a main staple item that I typically sell. I sell these on my bunker tab on my website, which is just like vintage goods and stuff that I find here and there. So I do not have a whole shipping system really set up that's totally geared towards mugs, but I do have a somewhat simple method to package and ship glassware so that it will hopefully arrive in one piece to the customer. Now, here's an example of kind of a typical size mug, and here's an example of a larger mug. So here's the boxes in reference to that. This is a 7 by 7 by 4 box. As you could tell, this mug is pretty close to getting up to the part where the flap folds over. And then in the 7 by 7 by 7 box, it's pretty large. But for this larger mug, this is a very adequate box to ship it in. So all that to say, think about which box you want to use if you are shipping lots of mugs. For me, I like to use the 7 by 7 by 7 box because I ship hats and other goods in this. And like I said, I'm not heavily invested into shipping mugs. But if you do ship a lot of mugs, you can definitely get away with something like a 6 by 6 by 6 box or a 5 by 5 by 5 box. The reason why you want to use a square box, in my opinion, is because if you adequately package your mug in there, you will have a greater chance of it being protected because it's going to be equally protected from all sides. If you ship it in a box that's not square and it gets dropped on a side where the mug is closer to that side that got dropped, there's a higher chance it might be damaged in some way if it's not adequately packed. The other thing that I like to do, and the kind of theory behind the way I package mugs, is I like to get it packaged so that the mug is essentially floating in the center and it's surrounded and protected by packaging materials from all around. You wouldn't want to place a mug and wrap it so it's like in the corner like this. You wouldn't want to have two mugs wrapped together like this. That creates a higher chance of them breaking. You want to make sure that each mug is individually wrapped. For these purposes here, I'm shipping one mug. It's a smaller one and it's going to be individually wrapped, and I'll show you how I go about doing that. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to wrap the mug in bubble wrap. In front of me here I have 4 feet of bubble wrap, and that's typically what I will use for a mug like this, or even for this mug. This might be slightly more bubble wrap than needed, but for me, I like to have peace of mind and not worry about this breaking and the customer having, a rare mug arrive to them broken. Especially like these mugs. These are a little bit harder to find online because they're vintage and I don't mass produce them. So I just like to ship stuff like this with peace of mind. In the past, I'm not sure if I made a video about this, but I shipped 2 items of glassware. Oh yeah, this is what I like to do. I basically like to wrap this and kind of fold over the top and the bottom sides with bubble wrap like this. And I think that this method works pretty good for me from all the mugs that I've shipped so far. So yeah, like I said, in the past, I was not really conscientious about how much packaging material I used, and one time I shipped 2 mugs and I didn't use enough packaging material and one of them broke, and I felt really bad for the customer because they were like a hard to find vintage item. I did, however, end up finding the same item and I shipped it to them for free, even though I refunded them, just to make them happy because it was a really cool item, and it wasn't a super large cost on my end to do that. So, and the customer is really happy when that happened. Then I have a piece of tape ready, and I just like to put a piece of tape on there to hold that. Now the next thing that I like to do, I will get 1 piece of this packaging paper. I like to use packaging paper in conjunction with bubble wrap. The bubble wrap typically costs more, so using the packaging paper as padding around the box, around the mug, is a better idea in my opinion, and it works just as well. So I'll place 1 piece on the bottom like this. Then I will place the mug right in the center, and the goal of this is to get this mug as centered as possible so that it's equally protected from all sides. Then I will get another piece of packaging paper. Sorry for the noise, it might be loud a little bit. So there's 3 pieces of packaging paper so far. I'll get one more. And finally, the last piece. Now, I would say whatever box you're using for your specific situation, it might be a smaller box. The goal of it is to package it tightly enough so that it's not tumbling around. If you have glassware that's tumbling around, that's a recipe for disaster. You have to assume that the post office will be throwing this around. It will get dropped. It will get thrown at the door, and that is what happens all the time. That's why stuff breaks, because this is getting tumbled around. It's getting shipped all over the country, all over in the United States, wherever you're shipping from. So that's important. Now, the last thing that I will do is I'm going to add a packaging list and a sticker in here and wrap and seal this up. And when I tape the boxes with glassware, I like to use an extra seam of tape. So, for instance, I would get this taped like this. I'll add a tape seam right here. Then I'll add one more tape seam all around, and this will be ready to go. And it shouldn't be making noise. It shouldn't be tumbling around. I'm shaking it right now, and it's not tumbling around. That means that this box, after I tape it up, it's going to be good and ready to go. And yeah, that's how I like to pack and ship mugs and other glassware like that. It's, you know, it might not be the perfect way of doing it, but this is how I do it because I don't sell, you know, tons of mugs. I'm not heavily invested in that. So, but this will be a good and economic way to do that if that's something that you are shipping from time to time. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks.